When I made that book, Cryptography Apocalypse, I think it was like 2019 or something, all the quantum computer people and all my quantum computing friends, people actually building the computers, really talk to me freely. They would tell me about their improvements, the number of stable qubits they were getting, the improvement in coherence times, increase in logic gates, quantum memory. I mean, they were just freely sharing. And then about the time the book came out, they all just stopped. You know, and it was this sense to me that they'd gotten to a place where it was becoming serious and practical. A lot of them got government contracts. You know, so it was funny. It's like now when I reach out to them, it's just like dead silence. I think there's a 15% chance the United States or China could have already had the Q-Day event, had the ability to factor asymmetric cryptography, RSA, Diffie-Hellman, Lippiker cryptography, that sort of stuff. I give it a 15% chance. I would say that's probably a rare opinion, but the guy that is probably most respected at kind of predicting when this Q-Day is going to happen is Dr. Mosca. And he used to be at the University of Waterloo, somewhere else, but he made up the Mosca kind of, I don't know if it's a theorem, but a Mosca idea that, you know, you had to start preparing ahead of the Q-Day because you need to protect your data. You know, if someone's sniffing your data or something like that, or they get your data ahead of time, they can break it once they get it. But I think he gives the 2030 date a 30% chance or something like that, or maybe 50% chance. And maybe it's just 30%, but I thought, so he's given a third of a chance to 2030. That means in the next couple of years, there's a really growing significant chance, right? Between 2025 and 2030. It may not be 30%, but it's 10%, 15%.
These are incredibly catastrophic results to gamble on, right? So you would think that it would, Yeah,
and then President Biden, in his last executive order, was tucked in this one sentence that said that all U.S. government networks should prepare for the move into post-quantum immediately, as soon as possible. And I thought that, I was like, wow, the previous day was 2030. And let me say, I don't think President Biden's a quantum expert. Right? He doesn't know quantum. He's barely heard the word, wouldn't know how to describe it. So obviously someone with some authority that's in NSA or NIST or something, CISA, came to him and said, hey, we need to have this sentence inserted. And we need to make the entire government move up their timeline. And I said, so somebody knows something.
Well, we do have the suspect that some people are already working on it, and maybe it's not even the hardware, maybe it's just the math, maybe it's something else too. So, but definitely there is an acceleration of this, and things might change dramatically anytime
That's
soon.
The thing is we don't really know when, and every distribution has outliers, and what if it's really early?
And two big things is that Shor's algorithm from the day it was invented by Peter Shor in 1994 became a ceiling of the number of qubits and gates and logic gates.
Right. It was,
We have seen documented public improvements. So you need less of that. Certainly the NSA and people like that are going to have improvements that we don't know about. We already know that there are improvements. So sure, people are like waiting to hit the Shores thing, like, hey, that's old news.
That's just the guaranteed, right? That's just the,
You don't think that mathematicians haven't improved upon something made in 1994. You don't pay enough attention to mathematics. But also that, Shor's algorithm assumed that we're using a generalized computer, right? And even the quantum is a generalized quantum computer that's capable of doing many different types of problems. Well, that's not the way that people in the NSA and other countries crack cryptography. They make very specialized equipment that is made to have the highest fidelity and utility for doing cryptography attacks. They don't waste time and bandwidth and wavelengths in math on doing stuff that isn't for what they're cracking. They make very specialized cryptographic attack machines. So, again, it kind of pushes, I think there is a chance, to me, it's non-minor, that we've achieved it. And again, the presidential Biden order didn't dissuade me of that belief, where he's like, need to do it as soon as possible. Like that. It's funny. That is not a casual sentence just inserted in there. Somebody came and said, this is so important. We needed to do in your outgoing executive order. And that executive order has not been countermanded by the new administration.
So speaking of resistance and arguments, so you did a lot with large organizations and preparation or migration regarding cryptography, regarding, I'm sure, things like disaster recovery and systems resilience. Talk about resistance, right? When it comes to getting ready for something, a problem that organizations don't have yet, they tend to really put up the sandbags against it, right?
That's so. And let me say that my prior cryptography migrations is when we were going from DES to AES, data encryption standard, a couple decades ago, and then more recently from SHA-1 to SHA-2 as Google. And there's going to be a SHA-2 to SHA-3. Those are hashes, but I was working for Microsoft. I was involved in hundreds of migrations from SHA-1 to SHA-2. And that one's a little bit more fixed because Google had an example of where they were able to break SHA-2. It was theoretical, but you could really see that, hey, it's becoming weaker and weaker, and now we have this example we can point to. The quantum one is always so interesting because no one knows when the quantum break or the Q day, the day when we have sufficiently capable quantum computers that are breaking traditional cryptography, that undermines much of what we do today. People go, will it break Bitcoin? Well, yeah, kind of. But Bitcoin's not your biggest problem. It's probably the entire SWIFT global banking system and MasterCard and Visa that we need to worry about before we worry about Bitcoin. Y2K that happened, in the 2000s when it was 1999 and we weren't sure what was going to happen when the clocks all rolled around in 2000. It was going to break a lot of stuff. And I was alive then and doing consulting, actually formed a whole company around it. It's called Bannerite Computer Security. That was actually partially I was on ride the wave of all these Y2K migrations, and in the end, and there's movies saying that we're gonna have airplanes falling out of the sky and dams breaking and apocalyptic, type stuff. None of that happened. So people now, most people say Y2K was this overreaction, something didn't happen, but it wasn't. It was actually to show that, if you look back at what we did, it was a couple of 2 extreme years of everybody going crazy, trying to inventory, find where there were problems, fix problems. And Y2K was a non-event only because humanity did come together and fix the problem mostly, except for some rare edge cases. And we need to do the same thing with, what they're calling Q Day. And the thing is, we don't know when it's going to be. And the U.S. government did us no favors when they went, hey, you have to be prepared by 2030. Which is crazy because that is, and they said that 5 or 6 years ago, but there's nobody I know when I talk outside of the people that are required to respond to it. So some U.S. government people that fall under U.S. government law, CISA and NIST and stuff, a very small subset of American businesses are even aware of it. They're certainly not preparing. I routinely, almost a couple times a month, give talks to hundreds of people, computer security people, about the quantum problem stuff. And when I say, and I can just see their eyes, oh my God, I'll say, how many here knew about this problem before I talked? And it's maybe out of 100 people, 4 or 5 hands. I go, how many people are actually preparing for it? And a couple of hands will go down. So out of the 5, I'll maybe have 1, 2, or 3 hands. I go, how many of you actually have an official project with executive sponsorship where you've created a post-quantum project and you're actually working on, and it will be 1 or 0 hands. And I've been for years. And what's funny is when I'm in quantum circles, so when I'm talking to the World Economic Forum, I'm talking to Cloud Security Alliance, Quantum Safe Computing Group, and I'm talking to quantum physicists, they're under this preconceived notion that the entire world is very quickly working on this problem. Like, there's a huge disconnect, and they're always shocked when I share to them, we're almost doing nothing. And I've done several informal surveys, and again, and then the U.S. government didn't do us any favors because they said, hey, you have to be prepared by 2030 or 2035. I think their original date was like 2035, then 2030. Well, everybody's worried about today about ransomware and password stealing Trojans and, all of these hacker attacks. You really can't get on the radar about a problem that's 5 years away.
This project is about the ethics of quantum power computing or supremacy, or how you like to call it. And the question here would be, well, let's suppose that someone already has that power, or someone already managed to break that cryptography. And then the question is, should be allowed to should be for everyone that power? Or how do we tackle the fact that only few can have maybe quantum secure networks? It's not for everyone, or someone is using it right now in secret, because probably if you know about it, maybe you don't want to tell to anyone, and meanwhile using it to leverage that power until you're the only one having it. But I mean, this is like kind of science fiction scenario. We're not doing this kind of thing.
Well,
But
I say that, I'm a big believer that past history is a good indicator of future behavior in history. Not all the time, but is a good guide. And in the past, that's what governments have done. When they made cryptographic improvements and breakthroughs, they didn't share them. They used them to their advantage as long as they could, and then shared them. Even, they make those cryptographic secrets, they hold them much longer than they need to, right? Like the UK was the one that kind of found asymmetric cryptography, and they didn't share that fact until the late 1990s. Clifford Cox, or whatever his name was the guy that truly invented it. But for a long time, we thought 2 Americans did. But it actually was the UK and this dude that had invented it a year before. And he was not even allowed to reveal till, I think, 1999.
what are the policy efforts to get to the post-quantum, or, well, if they are enough, because you were also saying that actually not many people are thinking about it, always related not to other technology. I am specifically talking about this particular issue, the quantum and post-quantum cryptography.
Yeah, post-quantum cryptography, there is not enough policy. The current policy is that people need to get migrated by 2030. That ensures that most people will not be paying attention until 2028, 2029, 2030. And let me say, I talk with people all the time that say that they need a 10-year migration from the time they start to migrate. Sometimes even, let's say, hardware in airplanes, hardware in drones. There are these chips that can't be upgraded. So that equipment, in a lot of cases, is not going to be replaced, right? Or if you have this, $200 million airplane and it doesn't have enough memory space or capacity to take the post-quantum cryptography things, they are not going to be able to upgrade it. It's too expensive to replace. One of the post-quantum algorithms, classic McAfee, we know seems to be among the strongest post-quantum cryptography algorithms that is resistant to quantum attacks. It seems to be among the strongest, but it also has 1 million-bit key sizes.
That's
a lot
huge.
of people said, well, let's go safe, because some of this other stuff, based upon lattice models, there is some concern that anything based upon the lattice model could be weak. There seems to be improving cryptographic attacks. There seems to be kind of a vibe or a sense that these lattice-based models might be fall sooner than we think. And so certainly NIST and other organizations realize this, and they've created additional new rounds of the NIST post-quantum cryptography contest and selected new candidates that are not based upon lattice models. But some people, let's just go to classic McAfee. We know it works, even though it needs 1 million-bit key sizes. There's just simply lots and lots of hardware that cannot take a 1 million-bit key. A lot of stuff in the military. So as we go along this post-quantum path, I mean, not only do you have lots of people that aren't preparing to, I'm just making this number up, 95% of corporations are doing nothing. I mean, almost no organization that I talk to is doing anything unless they're really heavily involved with the U.S. government and required by law. And even then, I don't know how much they're really doing. But, when people really start, average organization I mess with could have 10,000 applications and firmwares and things like that. And how do you inventory it? How do you figure out what is the cryptography? What is the maximum key sizes you can put? What you can upgrade versus you have to replace? And it's going to impact every piece of software and firmware we have. and very difficult challenge. And even when people start, just the inventory alone could be a year or two. It's kind of strange that we haven't been tracking our cryptographic algorithms, you know, in an inventory database, but almost no one does.
That's fascinating. Yeah. It's like we track like, what version of Windows do the corporate laptops have? We're rolling off of Windows 7. Now we got to, those ones get retired. They can't be upgraded. But nobody says we're on cryptography for these devices that needs to, they can't do the new one. We've got to retire them. They're unsafe. Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, or even, you know, we're on firmware version 1.71. Well, what does that mean? You know, especially in a data protection thing. And it's and you need to make it a routine part of when you buy something, even updating current purchasing contracts to say, hey, the thing that you're getting ready to buy, I would say that most people that are buying a lot of software and hardware are buying for multiple years when they buy something. That, you know, most thing isn't just for 1 year. You know, are they, you know, are you communicating with the vendor? Are you going to be cryptographically agile? You know, what are you doing to prepare for the post-quantum cryptography migration that absolutely the U.S. government said we have to be in 5 years? So are you currently, when you're talking to your vendors, making sure that they're aware of this requirement? It's a requirement of you, so it should become a requirement for them. What are they doing? And, you know, are they going to be moving to post-quantum cryptography? Are they crypto agile? That's a big word that everybody should learn, which is the ability to upgrade to crypto without having to replace or do a major upgrade. And that's something people should be putting in the purchasing contracts now, starting those conversations. I can remember during SHA-1, SHA-2, we'd reach out to various vendors going, hey, what are you doing for your SHA-2 migration? And they're like, SHA what? And so it was this educational process. And then it was usually you were talking to a vendor salesperson or something, and that person had to go back to his technical team. And you querying the sales vendor was the beginning of the process for that vendor to start their own exploration and education that then eventually led to some product, you know, 6-9 months from now, you know, learning what is that company going to do to help you prepare.
There will be probably 5 to 10 years to migrate in any way, because I mean, before migrating, we need the thing in place,
and we need education too for the awareness to stick. Is the education of this is serious and this is why. A decade. It can't be less than that for having general safety in place, right?
Yeah, and I would say that you know, another positive thing is that all the cloud-based products, you know, the big vendors, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, and stuff, they're going to do it, and you're probably not going to have to do much to you know, they're just going to upgrade Microsoft Office 365 and Salesforce to these post-quantum things, and you probably won't have to do anything. But there could be, like, some people think that the future solution should be a hybrid solution because we're not sure if you can trust the new post-quantum cryptography.
Exactly. So cloud's even worse, right? Because you're not there to actually even know. You know?
If you follow the cryptography circles through the NIST post-quantum cryptography contest, there was a lot of drama. And drama in a cryptography contest is not a good thing. But there were two finalist candidates that NIST was getting ready to announce as the finalists, including one called Psych that I really loved. There was another one, I forget his name off the top of my head, but they are literally weeks away from being announced as this is what the world should follow. And in both instances, it was announced that not only were they crackable, but not crackable by quantum computers, crackable by an old laptop in a day. Let me say, people would say the process worked, right? We had this contest, lots of people threw their stuff at it, and we found these 2 weak candidates. But one, I'm pretty sure it was the Israeli government found the weakness, told the NIST people, you should not promote this. They didn't want to share that they'd broken it, but they reached out and said, you should not promote this as a standard. NIST still was. So the Israelis released the information about how they cracked it at the last second. So you're like, wow.
So yeah, they probably a little softer, and then it was okay. We can't let this. Yeah, so they did the right thing, but it seemed like it just jumped up at the end.
The quantum Q day is the day that we have sufficiently capable quantum computers that can crack traditional asymmetric algorithms that are susceptible to quantum attacks. Quantum computers will become sufficiently capable of being able to quickly factor and crack the cryptography of traditional asymmetric encryption, RSA, Diffie-Hellman, Elgamal, elliptic curve cryptography, and things like that that really undermine, probably 90% of the stuff that we use today. So, your Wi-Fi, your computer is connecting to a Wi-Fi into a camera that is only working because of these algorithms. Your banking and Visa and the Swift global system uses it. Every time you connect HTTPS on the internet, which is what you get 90% of the time, it's using the TLS protocol that is using a quantum susceptible algorithm. And really, it's not only just these traditional asymmetric algorithms, but even because of what's called Grover's algorithm, which came out within a year or two of Peter Shor's algorithm. I think it was 1996 when Grover's algorithm came out. That was theoretically allows us to crack asymmetric cryptography. So it halves the protective power of today's traditional symmetric algorithms and hashes and digital signatures. So if you have like the most popular asymmetric algorithm today is AES. And I'd say at the time when this was released, most people had AES 128-bit, which is, as far as we know, uncrackable. But with sufficiently capable quantum computers using Grover's algorithm, it would have the protective power of that algorithm so from 128 to AES 64. And that is within the realm of what we already know how to crack. So even back, when Grover's algorithm came out and when the NSA and NIST started making recommendations, they said your AES should be 192 bits at least. That was kind of a weird number in the world. And it kind of only delayed the cracking problem. So most people said, let's go 256. And let me say, so there was a lot of testing. How many things could be upgraded to AES 256? And today, a lot of stuff has been, but it actually broke a lot of stuff. Like I would use AES 256, and I'd force my computer to use it and connect to different websites and services, and it many times broke and couldn't connect. It would lock up things. I was trying to do email encryption products using AES 256, and it would take 15 minutes to open an email that was encrypted with it. That's improved. I now think that if somebody announced a major breakthrough where someone has accomplished Q-Day or something close, I don't think it would be as shocking to people. I think the whole community is nearing this space of where it's coming soon. I don't know what that means, but I think probably back in 2019, if you told people Q-Day is coming in 6 months, there'd be a lot of people saying no way. These days, people might still say, it's probably still off, but there wouldn't be people shocked and amazed. They go, of course, because we've been making, just making improvement after improvement, and Google's been coming out, and IBM's been coming out, and Microsoft's been coming out with these constant improvements. Of course, it makes sense we would eventually reach what we needed to do that.